Marcus wiped down table 7 for the third time that evening, his calloused hands moving in practiced circles across the laminate surface. The Friday night dinner rush at Romano's Italian kitchen was in full swing, and his feet ached with that familiar burn that came from double shifts. But he couldn't think about the pain, not when Lily's school supplies needed replacing and her class trip payment was due next week. Single parenthood didn't come with sick days or the luxury of exhaustion. He glanced at his watch. Just 4 more hours until he could pick up his 7-year-old daughter from Mrs. Chen's apartment downstairs. 4 more hours of forced smiles and cheerful greetings, of pretending his back didn't scream with every tray he lifted, of acting like this job was enough when they both knew it barely covered rent in their cramped studio apartment. The hostess, Maria, touched his elbow. "Marcus, I'm seating a party of 3 at your section. Table 12. They look important." He straightened his tie, the same one he'd worn to every job interview, every parent-teacher conference, every moment that demanded he look more put together than he felt. "Got it." The woman who walked in commanded attention without trying. Silver hair swept into an elegant chignon, designer suit that probably cost more than Marcus made in 6 months, and an entourage that included a younger man in an equally expensive suit and a security detail that waited discreetly by the entrance. But it was the elderly woman between them who caught Marcus's eye, delicate, with kind eyes that seemed to take in everything while her hands moved nervously at her sides. Marcus approached with menus and his best professional smile. "Good evening, welcome to Romano's. My name is Marcus, and I'll be taking care of you tonight." The younger man, late 30s, sharp jawline, the kind of presence that screamed boardroom authority, nodded curtly. "Water for the table. We'll need a moment." But Marcus wasn't looking at him anymore. He'd seen the elderly woman's expression change when he spoke, watched her eyes dim slightly with that particular frustration he knew so well. Her hands had started to move in small, tentative gestures before stopping, uncertainty crossing her features. Without hesitation, Marcus's hands lifted, fingers forming shapes with fluid grace. "Good evening. It's wonderful to have you here tonight. My name is Marcus. I'll be your waiter." Asterisk. The woman's face transformed. Her whole body seemed to light up as her hands flew into motion, responding with an enthusiasm that made her daughter-like companion's eyes widen in shock. "You sign." Her hands moved with elegant speed. "I haven't met a waiter who signs in, oh, I can't remember how long." Asterisk. Marcus grinned, his first genuine smile of the night. "I'm happy to help. What can I start you with? We have excellent soup tonight, minestrone, and our bread is fresh from the oven." Asterisk. The restaurant had gone noticeably quieter. Other diners watched with curiosity, some with phones half raised before thinking better of it. The younger man stared at Marcus like he was reassessing everything. "You know ASL." His tone had shifted entirely, the corporate coolness replaced with something approaching wonder. "Yes, sir." Marcus switched back to speaking while his hands continued moving, a bilingual dance he'd perfected over years. "My daughter, Lily, she was born deaf. We've been signing since she was 6 months old." The elderly woman's hands moved again, more animated now. "Your daughter is blessed to have you. So many parents don't learn. They expect the child to navigate the hearing world alone." Asterisk. "She's my whole world." Asterisk. Marcus signed back, feeling the familiar tightness in his chest that came whenever he talked about Lily. Learning to sign wasn't a choice, it was a privilege. "How could I not communicate with my own daughter?" Asterisk. "I'm Robert Chen," the younger man said, extending his hand. Marcus shook it, noting the firm grip, the expensive watch. "This is my mother, Helen. And I'm incredibly impressed right now." Helen's hands moved rapidly, and Marcus translated instinctively, his voice becoming an extension of her expression. "She says you make her feel seen. That most restaurants, she sits through meals watching conversations she can't join, reading lips when she can, smiling politely while feeling invisible." Robert's jaw tightened. "Mom, I didn't." Helen touched his arm gently, signing something Marcus pretended not to see, though he caught the gist. "Not your fault, sweetheart. You try." Asterisk. Over the next hour, Marcus became more than a waiter. He became a bridge. He took their orders. Helen wanted the chicken marsala, but only if the sauce wasn't too heavy. Could they make it lighter? And he checked back frequently, each time engaging Helen directly. He told her about Lily's upcoming dance recital at the deaf school, how his daughter was nervous but excited. Helen shared stories of her own childhood, growing up in a hearing family that never quite learned to sign fluently, always being one step removed from dinner table conversations. The other diners watched this interaction unfold with growing interest. Some smiled. A woman at table 9 dabbed at her eyes with her napkin. Marcus barely noticed. For these moments, he wasn't thinking about unpaid bills or double shifts. He was doing what he'd learned mattered most, making someone feel heard. When Marcus brought dessert, tiramisu that Helen insisted on sharing with him, though he politely declined, Robert asked him to sit for a moment. "I run a company," Robert said carefully. "Chen Technologies. We develop accessibility software, apps for the deaf community, visual communication tools. It's my life's work, trying to build bridges in a world that made my mother feel isolated." He paused, something vulnerable crossing his features. "But I don't sign as fluently as I should. I've been so focused on the big picture that I forgot what simple human connection looks like." Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, I appreciate that, but I should get back. How much do you make here?" Robert's question was direct, businessman sharp. That's not really. Because I want to offer you a job." Robert pulled out a business card, pressing it into Marcus's hand. "Director of Community Outreach. You'd work directly with deaf communities, test our products, help us understand what actual accessibility looks like. The salary is $120,000 to start, full benefits, college fund for Lily, flexible hours so you can be there for her school events." Marcus stared at the card, certain he'd misheard. "You're offering me a job. You don't even know me." "I know enough." Robert glanced at his mother, whose eyes shimmered with emotion. "I know you learned an entire language out of love. I know you make people feel seen when the world trains them to be invisible. I know you work double shifts at a restaurant when you could be doing something that changes lives on a bigger scale." He leaned forward. "My company needs someone who understands that accessibility isn't about technology, it's about humanity. That's you." Helen's hands moved, and this time Marcus's voice cracked slightly as he translated. "She says you remind her of what she always hoped someone would be for her son. A reminder that kindness is its own credential." The restaurant was silent now, every diner unabashedly watching. Maria stood frozen by the kitchen door, tears streaming down her face. Marcus thought of Lily, of the cramped apartment, of the bills spread across their tiny kitchen table. He thought of the weight he carried every day, the fear that he wasn't enough, that love couldn't compensate for the financial security he couldn't provide. He thought of his daughter's bright eyes, her infectious laugh, the way she signed, "I love you, Daddy," every night before bed. "I'd need to bring Lily to the office sometimes," he said quietly. "When school's out or she's sick. I won't compromise on being her father." Robert smiled, the first genuine warmth Marcus had seen from him. "We'll build her a play area. Hell, we'll build a whole childcare center. Having employees' kids around will keep us honest about who we're building for." Helen reached across the table, taking Marcus's hand. Her fingers formed words against his palm, a tactile version of sign language that made the gesture even more intimate. "Thank you for seeing me. Asterisk. Marcus's eyes burned. "Thank you for letting me. Asterisk." When they left that night, Robert added a tip that made Marcus's hands shake, $5,000 with a note, first month's advance. "Start Monday if you're ready. We need you." Marcus stood in the empty restaurant after his shift, the business card in one hand, his phone in the other, a photo of Lily grinning on the screen. He'd walked into work that morning thinking about survival, about making it through another day. He was leaving with proof that sometimes the smallest acts of human decency, learning a language, making eye contact, refusing to let someone feel invisible, could change everything. He texted Mrs. Chen that he'd be late picking up Lily. Then he sat down and cried, finally letting the armor crack, letting himself feel the weight of years lifting. His daughter would grow up knowing that kindness mattered, that seeing others, truly seeing them, was never wasted effort. The world hadn't changed, but his had. And tomorrow, he'd tell Lily that sometimes, love speaks louder than words.